Blue Hybrid. With early news on Friday that Tommy had been restricted to 1, where does the deck go from here? In this Meta Monday episode, I'm going to cover updates to Blue Hybrid, at least with present known information of restrictions and suggestions moving forward with this build. As always, I'll go over the card by card, the strengths, the weaknesses, and the combos. And if you enjoy these types of videos, do consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and hitting that notification bell for more of my future content. Blue Hybrid functionally hasn't changed. You still have Tamers and setting up for wider swings as soon as you set up enough Tamers in memory. But with limitations here and there, and with BT9 set for a general release on Friday, it's time to make some changes. This deck runs 5 level 2s, 14 level 3s, 10 level 4s, 5 level 5s, 3 level 6s, 2 level 7s, 6 option cards, and 10 Tamers. For level 2s, this deck runs 1 Upamon and 4 Kiaromon. While Upamon can draw you a card when your opponent has a Digimon with no Digivolution sources, when you attack, Kiaromon lets you take a more passive approach to just strip Digivolution sources and draw. Overall, this deck's intent isn't to attack too aggressively, but to passively stun or bounce Digimon back to hand, while your Digimon either climb up or set up for big plays. For level 3s, this deck's running the typical 4 BT4 Strabimon, 3 Madoki Betamon, 3 BT7 Strabimon, 2 Neemon, and 2 Bokomon. BT4 Strabimon provides you the ability to search for a Tamer and a Hybrid on play. Statistically, your deck has increased on the Hybrids, primarily to utilize MagnaGarurumon's effect. From the 2 Floodgates, Sayakomon drops off for the fact that there aren't many Hybrids moving forward, especially now that Yellow got a severe nerf. But if your local sees a resurgence, modify as needed. The other Strabimon from BT7 enables you to search for Hybrids, Suzanomon, or Koji Minamoto. While it's only a 1 search, it can still be very useful when it comes to adding Suzanomon to your hand to recycle your Hybrids. Neemon assists with recycling your Tamers, and Bokomon for the best generic search for Hybrids or 10 Legendary Warriors and Tamers. Overall, your rookie lineup changes just a smidge when it comes to the BT9 format, but do keep in mind that this format is extremely aggressive and can pop your rookies very easily. For level 4s, this deck runs 4 Kumamon, 2 BT7 MagnaGarurumon, and 4 Korikakumon. With Tommy being the restricting factor, of course you're still going to run 4 Kumamons and 4 Korikakumons for source stripping and stunning. Every card in this deck is basically a hybrid that'll let you stun off Korikakumon constantly. With the inclusion of BT7 MagnaGarurumon, this Digimon gains jamming if you have a hybrid Digimon in its traits, or Koji Minamoto. Personally, I don't see a lot to substitute here, for the fact that Lobamon's just a bigger stat line for Kumamon, and BT4 MagnaGarurumon is expensive. For level 5s, this deck runs 1 BT4 Bay Wolfmon, and then 4 BT7 Bay Wolfmon. BT4 Bay Wolfmon prevents itself from being attacked if you have a hybrid source underneath. In combination with other hybrids, this Digimon can't be attacked, but it can be de-digivolved or deleted by card effects. Bay Wolfmon is your standard 4 of to keep bouncing your opponent's Digimon and recycle your level 4s. Keep in mind if MagnaGarurumon digivolved off Koji or a hybrid. If you go into a Bay Wolfmon, that Digimon will also get jamming if you have the memory. In addition, if you push to level 6, you'll be able to bounce the Bay Wolfmon to hand to bounce a level 5. With MagnaGarurumon, the biggest issue with this card is that when you return one card with hybrid and its traits underneath this Digimon's Digivolution cards to hand to bounce a Digimon, it has to be a Digimon of the same level. It's not the same level or less, it's just that specific level. But do keep in mind, with Koji Minamoto, you can utilize a MagnaGarurumon underneath to bounce even level 6s. For level 7s, this deck runs 2 Suzanomon. I decided to up the number from 1 to 2, for the fact that there's even more hybrids. You want to be able to recycle your hybrids, otherwise you run out of steam quick. This card is searchable off of BT7 Strabimon, but the best thing about this card is you could potentially have enough memory to go into it, delete a Digimon, and swing for 3 checks. Other cards I looked into for this build specifically were Omnimon Merciful Mode, for not only potentially removing security, but with Koji Minamoto you could potentially have multiple Digimon removals underneath if you have 2 MagnaGarurumons underneath it. Personally, I prefer Suzanomon, but that's just me. For option cards, this deck only runs 6 in the form of 1 Innocence Blizzard, 1 Ice Wall, 2 Blue Memory Boost, and 2 V-Wing Blade. Innocence Blizzard can take games. Seriously. This card was one of the cards that I saw in Ultimate Cup steal games, and as a one-of, I think it'll be fine with the amount of X-Antibody potentially coming in the next format. Ice Wall for the slowdown again, and mandatory for most blue decks. Blue Memory Boost for the Delay 2 memory and additional search. You could run Howling Memory Boost, but in the X-Antibody matchups, it won't feel as good not being able to strip their sources clean. Instead, by adding more cards, you beef up the possibility of using Koji Minamoto. V-Wing Blade is the last option card in this build. Cocytus Breath does generically bounce any Digimon to the hand. Rattlestar can return one Digimon that's level 5 or lower, or any Digimon to the bottom if your opponent has 3 or more Digimon. Looking at all these different option cards, V-Wing Blade felt the most memory efficient card for use. True, Cocytus Breath can do any Digimon, but the fact is, I feel a lot of OTK based decks will be going in with level 6s. Because of this, those level 7s that I should fear, I really don't. Ultimately, removal to hand was prioritized over source stripping and memory, in the case of Hammerspark for example. Lastly, 10 Tamers in the form of 3 Davis Motomiya, 4 Sora Takenouchi and Joe Kido, 1 Tamihimi, and 2 Koji Minamoto. Davis Motomiya is the best blue tamer and will always be the best blue tamer. This card nets you 1 blue Digimon in this deck, regardless of being a hybrid or not, and fixes your memory to 3. Sora and Joe is still decent for being able to strip sources, and gain you 2 memory when your opponent has Digimon with no Digivolution sources. 1 newly restricted Tamihimi for stunning and stripping, and 2 Kojis for the Warp Digivolve if you can get hybrids to your hand, and a MagnaGarurumon. Keep in mind you can use MagnaGarurumon as a hybrid source to bounce level 6s, which gives you some more play for removal as well. Before moving into strengths and weaknesses, this deck has not been tested. This build is to more so promote changes you can make to Blue Hybrid if you were a huge advocate of the deck. Strength-wise, you can still strip sources and stun very easily, but when it comes to going against X-Antibody, this build adds ways to bounce those Digimon to hand to eliminate the X-Antibody option card as it cannot be recurred. For weaknesses, this deck's average memory cost of play going first is going to be 3, meaning you'll want to go second with this build when possible. Likewise, this build is slower and will set up Tamers for the massive board swings. But do keep in mind with Death Xmon, don't put too many Tamers out, otherwise you could deal with a new problem. Combo-wise, we all know how Blue Hybrid runs. You play Tamers, you play more Tamers. You Digivolve into hybrids. You Source Strip. You stun. But really in theory and on paper, MagnaGarurumon could be the answer to keep Blue Hybrid afloat. But overall, with only part of the restriction list out, what's going to come next could make this deck unplayable. Do you think Blue Hybrid needs more restrictions? And if so, what would you like to see hit? While this may be one of the more hated Meta Monday episodes, this is the opportunity for Blue Hybrid to change and Digivolve into something new. This is Digi-Panda, logging out.